Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, just a few hours ago, 4 Israeli soldiers lost their lives in Jerusalem in a ramming attack by a lorry. I'd like us just to pause for a moment and remember those soldiers who gave their lives. And we're in London, but Israelis know the reality of life in that volatile part of the world. And let's just pause for a moment and remember them, and may their memory be for a blessing. Friends, on the 16th of December, this is what UN Secretary General said about his own United Nations body. He said, decades of political manoeuvring have created a disproportionate number of resolutions, reports and committees against Israel. In many cases, instead of helping the Palestinian issue, this reality has foiled the ability of the UN to fulfill its role effectively. And the Israeli ambassador responded and reminded the world that the UN has passed 223 resolutions condemning Israel and only 8 condemning the Syrian regime. Despite the condemnation of its own Secretary General, exactly 1 week later the Security Council passed a 224th resolution condemning Israel. I want to be clear from the start, Resolution 2334 is a disgrace. Its original proposer, Egypt, dropped it, and it was rescued by such human rights luminaries as Venezuela and Malaysia. And it succeeded in passing thanks to an act of spite by a lame duck United States administration whose Middle East policy has been a disaster for America and for the world. And therefore I want to know, our community wants to know, how on earth did our own UK government come to vote for it? On Christmas Day, I can tell you, I passed a very strongly worded message to the Prime Minister expressing my anger, that was the word I used, that British diplomats at the United Nations could have sunk to such depths. I intend to follow up with ministers in person, and I will be asking them the following questions. Who took the decision to ally the United Kingdom with Venezuela and Malaysia? Were any ministers involved? And if so, which ones? What advice did they rely on in deciding how to cast the United Kingdom's vote? What was known to Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson? Was Prime Minister Theresa May blindsided, as some media reports have suggested? Whatever the answers to these and other relevant questions, my views about Resolution 2334 are clear-cut and the reasons are compelling. The resolution is full of outrageous falsehoods. It is amoral, and it was shameful that the UK government voted in favour of it. Here are just 1 or 2 examples, and you'll hear more from other speakers. East Jerusalem is described as a settlement in Palestinian territory occupied since 1967. Whoever wrote that is either ignorant or malicious. It never was Palestinian territory. It was occupied by Jordan under no legal right whatsoever. And friends, the Kotel and the Jewish Quarter are not, never were, never will be settlements. They are the land of the Jewish people by historical and moral right. They always have been, and they always will be. Even on our enemy's logic, if 19 years of occupation by Jordan between 1949 and 1967 confers ownership in international law, as the United Nations seem to think, then 3,000 years of lawful habitation by Jews must be a far stronger claim. And the next lie for mention in this resolution is that everything beyond the 1949 armistice lines is called occupied Palestinian territory. Friends, not only Jewish Jerusalem, but Gush Etzion, Hebron, and many Jewish villages, which have been lived in by Jews for decades and even hundreds of years, saw their Jewish populations murdered in the 1949 War of Independence and the years leading up to it. I do not accept that land ethnically cleansed of Jews has any right to be treated as belonging to the ethnic cleansers. And the final protest that I shall mention is the resolution's call to distinguish between the territory of the State of Israel and the territories occupied since 1967. That is nothing short of an open invitation and indeed legitimisation of the BDS campaign, towards which Prime Minister Theresa May has rightly voiced her vociferous objection. And for these and other reasons, Resolution 2334 substantively alters government-established UK government policy, and our community wants to know why. On Friday afternoon of the 23rd of December, when ministers were enjoying their Christmas lunches, who committed our government to voting for, not even abstaining from, this detestable and false United Nations move? This resolution lacks credibility or truth, and it will harm peace. It encourages the Palestinians to think they can achieve their goals by means of pressurising Israel instead of sitting down to direct negotiations. And that will be the only way to create peace. It provides undeserved cover to the duplicitous Mahmoud Abbas, now in the 11th year of his 4-year term, who chooses incitement over statesmanship, and it provides fuel to the boycotters. Our government must now distance itself from this iniquitous resolution. It should identify who at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office apparently blindsided ministers at Christmas and repudiate their ill-advised advice. Our community wants assurances that no further steps will be authorised on the basis of this resolution, and that the government will in future oppose the bias against Israel at the UN. 223 resolutions aimed at Israel, 8 at Syria. This is the work of a disgraced world body. For our government to have given support to such a shameless and ill-conceived move in the season of goodwill to all men is incomprehensible. And I want to hear the government say that it was a mistake that will not be repeated. Thank you very much.
The placards in the air just for one final photo.